Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we have a lot of microphones on the stand today. We have a lot of budget broadcast options for you, and right around the same price range, little fluctuations here and there, but for the most part they're in the same market. And of course, keep an open mind. Not every microphone is made for every person. Every person has a specific tone that they put out into the universe, and these microphones capture those tones differently. So full disclosure on this video, I just want you to know that I will be doing this in sections, meaning these two microphones are pointed a certain way so I could get a good, accurate representation of how they are, and then I will be doing a good representation of these two. Just so you know, and just so me and my future self actually understands what's going on, PD-70, PodMic, ZDM-1, and AT2040. So if you see me going back and forth like this and like this, it's because I'm trying to give an accurate representation of how the microphones are. When we get in the booth, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet because I think this might be a little bit bulky, but if I could do it like this, I will do it like this because I'm ambitious. I'm eccentric. Well, at least like the self-proclaimed eccentricness. One more thing on the disclosure. I will be doing as much as I can in these videos, but if I do miss something, just go check out the individual videos and other comparisons that I have done. I try to get all the information in here as I can, but the length of the video and the things that I remember to put in definitely come into that. So if I miss something, it's in one of the other videos. I guarantee that. Also, you could ask me down in the comments. That'd be great too. So to start off with the PD-70 and its build, the PD-70 is certainly my favorite overall. And this isn't a, like, oh, that's it, that's my favorite. No, I haven't really listened to these, and I will be listening to this fully before I give my final analysis and my outro. But for right now, the PD-70 is my favorite. And it is the most expensive, which is not a reflection on my opinion, but it is the truth, and it's more expensive than all the other ones on the stand today. So back to the build. It certainly has a nice build. It feels nice. But I think the fact that it has a half yoke mount hurts it when it comes to rejection of noise. It probably has something to do with the build inside and the enforcement of the diaphragm, but I do feel like the rejection of noise is a little lackluster. So to give it a score, 8 out of 10 for the PD-70 and its build. And all these are going to get scores as well. Moving on to the PodMic, since we're here. I feel that this is probably the... I don't know if it's the best build, but it's certainly the nicest as far as like contrast of colors and things like that, which shouldn't be something that you consider, but it is something that a lot of people consider, the look and everything like that. On the other end of this line, we have the really nice build of the AT2040, but we'll get into that a little later, which, just a little teaser, these two are probably the best out of all of them. So with this, it is the heaviest one out of all of them. I think it's over 900 grams. And I do feel that it's one of the original budget broadcast microphones. Of course, there have been plenty of options out there for years, but this was marketed towards the podcasting and the streamers. So as far as the build, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Because I don't give 10 out of 10s, just so you know. Next up, we have the ZDM-1, which I heard someone say something in the comments the other day saying I'm a little hard on the ZDM-1 with how it's built, but it's the truth. And I do feel like it's a little bit lacking in its support and anything. It feels like a Tonka toy when I hold it. I know. And whoever left that comment, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, this is out to you that I kind of give it a little bit of a hard time, but I do play it up a little bit on camera. So it is a nice microphone. It is a good tone, but as far as the build is concerned, it's nothing to write home about. It's pretty bad. But as far as the build, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. It's just off-putting. That's just my opinion. Now, lastly, we have the AT2040, which I'm very excited to have in this comparison because it is definitely a good option. I've heard a lot of your comments, and I've obviously answered you guys, and I feel that there are some people that it lends well to. It does a good job at capturing a specific sound that some people want. But as far as the build is concerned, it's excellent. It's great, has very unique features, meaning the enforcement and the diaphragm and everything like that. The bushing there, excellent construction, excellent rejection of noise. Not as good as the Shure SM7B, but if you check out that comparison, it is pretty close, and it does a really good job. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, and it's tied with the PodMic right now, but we'll see how it goes in the future. So next up, we're going to get into some techie talk. I'm going to leave a graphic up of all the specs that I feel that are important and I feel that are the most comparable between all of these. But if you want anything specific, as I always say, ask me down in the comments. I will be happy to talk about it and give you a better answer. Or you could check out the individual videos where I go a little bit more in depth. This is kind of just going to be an overview and my personal opinion on how they are overall. So on the PD-70, we have a negative 56 decibel sensitivity. Now, this is certainly one of those that it's kind of light, meaning that it's very low, and it needs some gain. So if you have a recorder or a interface that can't support it, right now I'm into the Zoom F6, and I could tell you that it's recording with 60 decibels added on. And that's going between like negative 12 and negative 6, which is a nice healthy level. That's a tough one. And I feel that you might need a cloud lifter, you might need a FET head, but that really depends on what you're using. If you have a Go XLR, if you have something like the Zoom F6 that offers up to 65, 75 decibels, you're good. If you're using something like a Focusrite, it might not be. Or like a Wave XLR, I think offers up to like 70, 75, so that's good as well. So keep in mind of what you have. And if you already have something like a Scarlett Solo or something like that, and you want to buy the FET head as opposed to buying a new interface, keep that in mind. A FET head is really nice. I have one attached to my Shure SM7B, and it's great. I never had a problem with it. Dynamic microphone cardioid and 350 on the ohms, pretty standard. And I'll give that one a 9 out of 10 because it's nice. I give it a 9 out of 10 out of the Techy Talk. Now to the PodMic, which is very comparable to the PD-70 in the sense that their specs are very similar. A negative 57 decibel sensitivity, which is light. I mean, that's not a lot of decibels, so you're going to need like 60, 61 or something like that. So keep that in mind. Same thing for the PD-70. Cardioid, all that stuff, 350 impedance. So all the same. These are pretty much the same types of microphones. The PD-70 is certainly less tuned and the PodMic is more tuned, so it might take a little bit more work, but I feel like with that work, you get a little bit more out of it. And of course, the PodMic is 9 out of 10 on the Techy Talk. Moving over to the ZDM-1 and its specs, I feel that the super cardioid polar pattern definitely helps it out with my opinion on it, and it helps with rejection of noise. If you saw the comparison between these two, the hyper and super cardioid budget broadcast microphones, you notice that they do really well. I think that the hyper might be a little bit better, but that might be because it's Audio-Technica compared to Zoom. And as far as the specs are concerned, this is where it definitely comes back in. It's really showing where they put their money. So as far as the sensitivity, it's negative 54 decibels. You don't need as much as the other ones, but you need more than a normal microphone. Frequency response, 50 to 18. Not too crazy. Those edges are usually rolled off or not used as much with your voice or anyone's voice, so it's not that bad. A 200 impedance, which is really nice. It does really good. A low impedance like that is really good. And of course, like I said, super cardioid polar pattern, which is really nice with rejecting noise. And of course, if you don't touch it, it's great. If you buy a shock mount like I have right here, it's right around the same price as the rest of them. It's the cheapest option out of all of them. And just so you know, I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. Best one so far. And for everyone who's saying I am hard on the ZDM-1, here you go. There's me giving it some credit. Now on to the AT2040 and the last one in our Techy Talk. This one right here, this is where I kind of give this one a hard time. I gotta be honest. Hypercardioid polar pattern and a negative 53 decibel sensitivity, which is not too crazy. You need, just so you know, I have 55 decibels into the 2040 right now, so that's giving it a nice healthy level like I was saying before. It has a 600 ohm impedance, which is kind of high, at least compared to all these, but overall, I gotta admit, 7 out of 10 on the specs and the techie talk on this, because that frequency response and that impedance is certainly off-putting. Now, lastly, in techie talk, the frequency response curves, and this is going to be a very narrowed down version of my talking of the frequency response curves. If you want anything more in depth, of course, check out the individual videos, or you could just ask me down in the comments. Starting off with the PD-70, it has a nice midsection and nice presence, very flexible for anyone who's looking to get a good quality out of a microphone and flexible to adjust it to their likings. For me, I do really like the tone of this, and it makes it easier to manipulate it to an individual, meaning that it could be for just about anyone if you're willing to do the work on the back end. So overall, I'm going to give that one a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the PodMic here, I noticed that there are peaks around the 150 and 900 mark. That could be bad, could be good, depending on the person, depending on the voice. These are certain tweaks and tuning of the microphone that stand out to me. But for the most part, I do like the tone, and I feel that it's like ready to go. It's not one of those things like, yeah, of course you can manipulate it how you want, but I think it's a little bit harder to manipulate because it's tuned a specific way to sound a certain way. And I might be a little bit hard on it, but I will say that it is a 8 out of 10 because it's just a little less than the PD-70, at least in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the frequency response curve on a chart, not necessarily how it sounds. So we'll get into the tone and everything in the booth. Now on to the ZDM-1. I really do like the frequency response. It's very nice, very smooth, very simple. The only critique that I have on it is that the high end is boosted a little much for my liking. It really is a nice tone, especially if you throw on the big pop screen that it has. It kind of dampens those highs a little bit more and tunes it a little bit better, at least for my liking. If you take it off, you notice that it's a little airy, and that frequency response can get a little annoying. But overall, I give it a 9 out of 10 because I really do like how smooth it is, and that flat mid section for spoken word is really nice. And finally, the AT2040, which the frequency response and the tone kind of go hand in hand, because the fact that they cut it starts at 80. It's way too much for a natural tone of a microphone. Having a low cutoff for that 80 hertz is nice if you have the option, but if it's natural to the microphone, it's a little bit off-putting, and I think it's too mid-forward. As I said before, the frequency response is a little narrowed in, and it's too mid-forward. It really is. As far as on a chart, it looks better than it actually sounds, but on a chart, I'd say it's because of that low end. That low end really turns me off. Depending on the person, of course, will determine if it's for you, and it's a specific microphone for a certain type of person, a certain type of vocal performance, and I will give that a 7 out of 10 because I'm just not sold on it. I think it's too narrow. If you were to tell me it was like 50 to 18 like the ZDM-1, sure, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 then, but it's not the case. Alright, so throughout this video I've been talking about 2-3 inches away from these microphones. This is my little studio here, and it's a mildly treated room. I did a little bit more. I added some, one actually, moving blanket above my little area here. Maybe helps with reflections off the ceiling. I don't know, maybe it makes a little bit of a difference. I've been testing it out in some videos, so if you've checked those out, let me know if you've noticed the difference between the last two videos, the two Zoom videos I just put out, and the previous ones that I used the boom mic for. Just maybe you notice a difference. I think I noticed a little bit, but I got to manipulate it a little bit better to avoid that corner. Sometimes corners are a little bit annoying to get just right. Alright, so I'm about like 2-3 feet away from the fronts of the microphones. They're roughly around the same distance to my mouth. And this is how it's going to be in the mildly treated room. Little bit of things here and there, but a lot of stuff in the room. That certainly does make a difference. If you're setting up your room for recording and you don't have a lot of treatment or don't have access to something that can be used as treatment, I would highly recommend just putting a lot of soft stuff in your rooms. It really does make a huge difference. And blankets, moving blankets, anything soft really does help. Alright, 90-degree test on stage left on the PD-70 and the Rode PodMic side. This is what it's going to sound like with your 90 degrees. And I think that you're going to notice a huge difference between these two and these two. The super and the hyper here, and then the cardioids here. You're probably going to notice a huge difference in the off-axis rejection. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do the sweet spot. Now, the sweet spot will be one of those things that can be fluctuated depending on the microphone, depending on the type, hyper or super, or even cardioid. Just let's talk into it. Let's go into that sweet spot. 120 to 150 degrees, roughly, give or take. This is what it's going to be like with your off-axis rejection. And you're probably going to notice a lot more of a difference between these two here and their off-axis rejection within this area. But it is roughly what you're going to hear. I'm about like 1.5 feet away from the PodMic and the PD-70, and then about like 2 feet away from the Zoom ZDM-1 and the AT2040. Alright, last test. The 180-degree off-axis rejection test. We have the hyper, super, and 2 cardioids here. Traditionally, the super and the hyper have a little bit of pickup on the back. It's a byproduct of their more honed-in off-axis rejection, or honed-in polar pattern, I should say. And this is what you're going to hear with something behind it, about 2 feet away, like I said. Maybe if I go a little bit further away, you get a little bit more of an example of what it's going to be like. So, in the booth, obviously, I mean, I'm not just in some padded room because I've gone insane, which very could well be the situation that's going to be happening probably soon if I don't get out more, probably. But regardless of my insanity, the PD-70 right now. So to keep this simple, I'm going to run down the line and talk about each one. And then we'll do plosives, and then I'll give my impressions at the end of it. And really quick, really easy, nothing too crazy. You notice that you need a little, like if you don't want to do any work on this microphone, you want to get up on it a little bit and get a nice proximity effect there. And I do like the tone of this. It's nice and smooth. It's a little bit lacking color. I will say that, but you add a little bit more bass with going a little bit closer and a little more airy when you go a little further away. But, of course, I think this is the best one only because I feel like it's more flexible with the back-end editing. Now, on the contrary, the PodMic here, which I'm speaking into right now, that's mostly for me in the editing. So the PodMic here is definitely something that is one that you don't necessarily need to do a lot on in post. It's really tuned to the point where you don't need to do anything with it. Now, of course, depending on the person, depending on the source, this could be different. I mean, you can manipulate it however you want, but I feel like it's tuned a specific way that it's kind of lends well to more people than the rest of these, especially the PodMic and the 2040. I feel like the PodMic is definitely tuned out of the box the best without any need for post-processing to the ZDM-1. And I really love the tone on this. So it has a nice low end because of this pop filter or windscreen on it. I feel that dampens some of that high end. The high end is very boosted on this one, as you know, and if you've been here before, you know I spoke about the frequency response, how this kind of tunes it a little bit better, and also helps out with the plosives to the AT2040. And this one, you hear the mid-forwardness of it, mostly because of that cutoff on the end. The low end is definitely something that is Nothing to write home about. It really is just annoying that they thought it was a good idea to do that. It's a specific tone for a specific type of person. So if you're a person that doesn't necessarily have those low ends in their voice, and it's those low ends below 80 don't really affect you or aren't the prominent tones in your voice, then sure. I mean, it could be good. And who knows? Maybe there's some people that like this on my voice. For me specifically, I do not. Now for our plosive test. PD-70 with the pop screen. Without the pop screen. Does a good job. With the pop screen and the SE electronics. Without the pop screen and the SE electronics. PodMic, natural. I don't know. That annoys me a little bit. With the SE electronics. ZDM-1. That does a good job. Without it. With this. And both. Now to the AT2040. That's the word. That's the model number. Again, these two. They supposedly made it out to be so much more than it actually is. Reinforcement? Not that great. Just being honest. With the SE electronics. There you go. All right, so back on the PD-70. And listening to all these together, I really love the smooth tone. I really do. I know I keep sounding like a broken record, but this is my favorite as far as like microphones in the booth. And let's give it a grade because I've been giving grades throughout this video. As far as the tone naturally, just listening to it in the booth, I give it a 9 out of 10. And we're grading on a curve because these are budget options. Of course, you're not comparing this to the Shure SM7B, which I did compare all of these to the Shure SM7B. So you can go check those out. All right, so the PodMic here, listening to that. And if I'm going to give a grade on the PodMic, as far as the tone is concerned, I'm going to give it another 9 out of 10 because only for the fact that I feel that it's out of the box the best one. And you might say, oh, why don't you choose the PodMic over the PD-70? Because I feel like it's less flexible when it comes to post-production and your manipulation of the tone. The ZDM-1. I know, I hear it. I hear the people talking in the comments saying, oh, he's going to hate this one. The only negative thing about this microphone is its build. As far as the tone is concerned, I really like it. I do really like it. I do feel that it's maybe if you tune it a little bit more on the back end, it might be a little bit better. But naturally, I really like it. I'm giving it another 9 out of 10. I can't say any higher or lower. I just feel like there's something missing that really brings it down. All right, so the AT2040. As far as the tone is concerned, I just wish they didn't take away that low end. It really would be a nice microphone and really do well. 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 on the tone. I'm not a huge fan of it on my voice. And I don't know. 7 out of 10. So, starting over here on the ZDM-1, we're here in the Untreated Room and doing off-axis rejection and noise tests, which should be much easier than speaking into these microphones, as you probably have seen throughout this video. Moving over to the PD-70, this is my old bedroom. I have an area rug above a wood floor and some flat surfaces, but there's a lot of stuff in the room, so it's technically untreated, but stuff in the room definitely helps. Moving over to the PodMic. The things we're going to do in this room are noise tests naturally with the room and off-axis rejection. So AT2040, this is the newcomer, and I've done a bunch of comparisons with it, and this is the big finale, hopefully. I'm hoping that I don't have to do this type of big production for a while. I need a break from this kind of stuff. So I ain't gonna do anything too crazy. I might move a little bit to give a reference, but this is about 2 feet away from the microphones, and this is what you're gonna get with your off-axis and distance test. And let me know what you think about the off-axis rejection around all these. I've done this test with all these microphones already, but now they're all on the same mount, which is it looks really cool, but to be honest, I really don't think it's that efficient. This is probably the only time that someone would ever do this, and I almost guarantee I'm the first person to do this. I'm not going to say I'm the only person to do this, but I think I'm the first person to do this. Alright, off-axis rejection on stage right, closer to the AT2040 and the Rode PodMic, further away to the rest. And this is what you're going to get with your off-axis rejection. In the untreated room, there is an area rug underneath us. Yeah, we're together. We're together. It's nice and cool, man. Actually nice to be in a room where it's air conditioned. Well, not all the time, like I said. Take what you can get with the air conditioning while you're not recording. And there is a glass for windows, and there's some reflective walls, but for the most part this isn't too bad of a reflective area. Now for reference, here is the sweet spot, roughly 120 to 150 degrees, and this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room for the off-axis rejection. Keep in mind the hypercardioid and the supercardioid on the AT2040 and the Zoom ZDM-1, and compare them to the PodMic and the PD-70. As far as off-axis rejection, I noticed that the AT2040 is probably the best out of all of them. You guys let me know, and I'll let you know in the outro when. Alright, last up, 180 degree test off-axis rejection, and this is what you're going to hear in the untreated room. I'm running out of things to say. Remember that the hypercardioid and the supercardioid are known for having pickups in the rear, and if you notice the difference between them, let me know. The hypercardioid on the AT2040 has less, but let me know if there's a difference. Alright, that's it. This is a lot. Let's go do an outro. And that is the budget broadcast microphone battle royale, and it came down to a tie, which I had to break, between the PD-70 and the PodMic. And of course, my own personal preference, the PD-70 won because of my own personal preference. I went through all the scores. I didn't put up the scores for the off-axis rejection and the noise because, to be honest, they all were in one category, and I did it later. So down in the description, I have all the scores so you guys can see that. It will probably show that it's a tie between the PD-70 and the PodMic, which I gave the tiebreaker to the PD-70 personally. If you have your own choice, let me know down in the comments which one you like more, which one you prefer, and all that stuff. If you have one of these microphones, tell me how you feel about it and tell me what your experience is with them. And I will be putting up a poll on the community tab as well, so you guys can vote on that sometime in the future. I probably will put it simultaneously up with this video, so go check that out. That all being said, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. It would be greatly appreciated. Helps this video, helps this channel get out to more people and really build this community. As I said in a bunch of videos before, we are very close to getting to 1,000 subscribers. We are roughly around like 75 away right now, and we just need to get there. I was hoping to get there by my birthday, which is 10 days away from the recording of this on October 25th, which I don't think is going to happen, but maybe by the end of the month, who knows. I have a feeling that'll happen sometime in November if I was to guess, but that's just my guess. But speaking of subscribing, if you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to know when I go live, because I also do live streams on this channel occasionally. I really want to get back into doing it once a week, but it's been kind of crazy in my life. So if you hit the notification bell, you'll know when videos come out and streams are happening. So if you want to just stop by, ask a question, or just say hi for like 5 minutes, whatever it is, I'll be happy to have that conversation. I do some dot-to-dot art, play some video games, really just hang out, chill, and that's about it. Really chill time, and I just, all I ask is you have a positive vibe, and just be nice. I just say that, be nice. Just don't be a dick. That's all I can say. Also, down in the comments, I said streams, but down in the comments, leave your comments, leave your questions, everything like that. I try my best to get back to everybody. If you have a question about these microphones, tech gear, and anything whatsoever, please leave it down there. Be nice, be kind, all that kind of stuff. And that's all I got for you today. Until next time, take care. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, this is like, I'm like a Ghostbuster. Oh my god, I've got my proton pack and everything. Oh my goodness. Venkman will be so proud.